Welcome to Wire Guild. This tutorial is for a bracelet come bangle and I called it Twist and Shine. As you can see, it's very shiny and it's got a lot of twists in it. So materials, you're going to be using 0.8mm or 20 gauge round wire, copper, silver, plated, really doesn't matter. And I've used a Swarovski sew-on component, the little flower that's in the middle. Now I've got a second option later on in the tutorial that doesn't use one of these, it's just the bracelet, so if you don't have one, don't worry about it, but I'm going to do the one with the flower first so that you can see how to use them if you ever decide to do that. It's like I say, it's a little flower, and when I tip it over onto the back, it's so you can sew it onto fabric. It's got multiple, it's got bits of fluff on it, multiple little holes in the back so they can be stitched on. Now that's a little single one, and this one here is a bigger double version. As far as I know, they're quite readily available. I got these from Rio a while ago actually, these. I think I'm going to use a little one. I think it looks a bit sweeter in the middle of the bracelet I'm going to make, so we'll pop that one on one side. But really anything that's got multiple little holes in the back that we can fasten wire to. And like I said, these sew-on things are brilliant, so they're usually quite pretty. So if normally your bracelet was going to be 7 inches, you've got your flower in the halfway stage, and the wire would be proportionate, but we need more. So you're going to need about 5.5 inches either side to create about a 7.5 inch bracelet. You need more because you're actually twisting the wires around the beads, so we're using up more of the length than just putting it as if it was just a straight piece of wire. So I've got 6 pieces, and there's my little flower, and I'm going to start off by just taking some round nose pliers and a short distance from the end. What's that? It's probably about just over 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to put a bend in, bend it all the way around and cross it over. We need enough for this to wrap, so don't make it too tiny because you won't have enough wire on the end to secure it once it's through. And I'm going to thread it through one of the little holes on the back. Round nose pliers go across the circle to hold it all nice and firm, and then just normal pliers using to wrap that around. With it being such a small amount, if you try and use your fingers, it tends to slip and doesn't smooth. You see, it's not smoothing now. What's happened is that was probably the end piece of wire, and with it being sitting around, it's work hardened slightly. So normally I would have probably trimmed it off, but I never thought. So it's just been a little bit awkward, but don't worry, it will not win. I won't let it. With such a tiny piece of wire, if you just put the pliers on and just squeeze indiscriminately, you're as likely to undo the wrap that you've just put around the wire as you are to actually flatten the piece down. So what you have to do is make sure that you're in the right place and smooth it down. Now do another one, about the same distance, make a circle, curl it all the way around, and I'm going to put it directly opposite. So I've got 8 little holes here, so that one goes, let's just move that petal slightly. That one goes in the one. They're usually really well made of these things, so you can kind of give them a bit of a tweak so that you can get in. So I've just bent the base so that I can slip the wire through. There we go. So round nose pliers across the loop, and then wrap the little tiny tail end around. You don't want too many wraps here. 1.5, 2, 2.5, that sort of number. If you get too many, when we come to putting the beads on, you're not going to be able to slide the bead up as close as you would like. It's going to be, you know, sort of further away. So that's that on. So as you can see, it's starting to take shape now. What I need to do is add the other 4 wires The 2 that we've put on, if you like, are going to be the central, and then I will put the other 4 on either side, if you know what I mean. So those are in the middle, and then you've got 1 either side on both sides. So you end up with your flower, and then 3 wires coming out to the right and 3 wires coming out to the left. Now just put the little curls in all of these. If you find it easier to mark your wire and get an exact space, do that. If you find it easier to do them all together, do that. If you find it easier to do one at a time, do that. I keep saying there's no right and wrongs, whichever way you feel comfortable. So I'm going to add these other 4 wires. Let me get that down there, and I'm going to wrap around. I think you've probably got the gist of what I'm doing, so even though it's not behaving, just wrap that around. So I'll just speed up the next bit so that I can get all of these 6 wires on, and you're not bored to tears and going to sleep thinking, I've seen her do this 5 times before, I don't need to see her doing it again. There we go. One thing I will say about these sew-on components is they usually are base metals. They're not usually precious metals. So you do have to be, you know, sure that you tell your customers, things like that, if you're selling these, that you may have used silver wires, but your central piece is not. I've never had anybody that's been bothered. They've always, you know, been absolutely fine about it. And I've never had anybody ring me up and say, you know what, the colour's come off. So they must be pretty well made. So how far have we got? Right, I've got 6 wires. So there's my little flower with its 3 little legs coming off either side. Now if you wanted, you could literally just plait these wires and it looks really pretty. But we're going to make it a bit fancier than that. I mean, you can plait them later if you want, but let's have a go. So I've got some 8mm Swarovski beads, and I'm just sliding the bead up the central wire. I'm going to hold that up as far as it will possibly go and bring my other wires round. You could go 4mm, 6mm, 8mm, bigger if you want, entirely up to you, but the bigger the bead, the more wire you use. First wire we wrap over the top. So that was wire from my side. This wire comes underneath. Okay? And then put your thumb on the bead so the bead holds still. And then twist those wires around the central wire. I'll do it again. So we just move that up a little bit. It wobbles about a bit when you get the first bead on. Don't worry, it'll tighten up as you get more beads on. So I'll slide another bead on and I'll show you again. So we slide on. Okay. The wire at the bottom, this one, we're going to bend it up over the top of the central wire around the bead. Yeah? The wire that's at the top is going to come down around the bead, but that is at the back of the central wire. Holding it all together, I twist all the way around so they change places. Bead on, wire at the bottom, comes up and across the front, wire at the back, comes down and across the back. If the wires come loose, grip them with your left hand, do the twist with the right. Okay, show you again. Another bead on. So the wire at the bottom comes up around the bead and the wire at the back goes down and it's the back of the wire. Let's move on to the other side. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Just straighten that wire out a little bit wobbly. So bead on all the way down. Hold it in place with its 2 wires in my left hand. Take the bottom wire round the bead but in front of the middle wire, and the top wire is at the back, and then a twist. It's the same all the way along, but it makes a surprisingly strong bracelet strap, and really effective. Your wires are protecting the Swarovski beads to a degree, because after all they are only crystal, so it's giving extra protection around the edge that it wouldn't normally get if you just strung them. And the whole thing, the way it's sort of twisted together, gives it a rigidity. Now you don't need to stick to one colour, you could use multiple colours, you could intersperse them, you could have a crystal bead followed say by a silver bead, and of different sizes. Whatever you want to do. The larger the bead, the more wire you will use on your outside wires. So let's have a look. We're only probably it's about 5 inches long there, so nowhere near big enough. So let's keep adding some more beads. Exactly the same. One at the bottom is over the front, one at the top is down the back, and then you twist. Do the same with the other side. Once I've got 2 or 3 on, I'll then start doing one side at a time to make sure that I'm getting it even. There we go, twist it round. They look very effective in copper. The only problem is I've never found any of these sew-on things that are copper coloured. So I tend to make these in silver. They work very, very well as yeah, I need to put some more on. I should have just about enough wire there to do one more twist, which is a good job. So put that down, twist that up, down, hold it in place, and twist it around. I'm going to twist it again because this is the last one. I'm not going to put another bead on. So 2 twists will hold it in place. They're very good for weddings, these. Very, you know, bridesmaids' presents. Very good for that. So let me bend that one up, that one down. See how that's coming loose? If you just hold it like that around the bead, when you twist it holds it in place. So I've gone round twice there. So there we go. And what have we got? Just about 7 inch, good. Because we need a little bit for the ends, because we're going to make a hook and eye. If you put pliers on over the top, you can sort of squidge these wraps tighter, make sure that they're neat and well pushed down. I'm just going to screw that one round again, give it a bit of a tighten, and then snip off the side wires either side, put pliers on the top and go with the way they were twisted. Just ease round, that's it, to make sure that there isn't any little spiky edge or anything like that. We don't want any little sharp bits. Okay, to do the same on the other side. I'll just do that one more twist, tighten it down and trim off. Close as you can, don't go through the wrong wire. That's always the problem with wire jewellery. Cut through the wrong wire and you've had it. You can't really stick it back together again. So that's the main bit of our bracelet. Now if you wanted here, you could use a bought-in fastener if you've got one of those, but I'm just going to make a little eye at one end, and I'm going to create a hook to go on the other end. So I've got myself a piece of white. It's probably 2.5 inches. It's a longer piece of scrap that I had kicking around. Round those pliers onto the end and make the tiniest, weeniest little loop that I can. Just a little loop that goes on the end. There we go. Then I put the jaws on much higher up so you get a thicker piece and curl it back the other way. This is creating our little hook bit, which is going to go and fasten our jewellery. Now if I put a loop in there, it's a bit close, so a little bit further down. I'm going to go all the way around. Sorry, it's gone out of shot. Let me move my hands back in. There we go. It's gone all the way around. Now because I'm going to make a loop with the other end, I can finish this off. This doesn't need to be left open. I'm just going to wrap loosely in like a curly spiral around, and I'll fasten back to one of those. It gives it, if you fasten it really tight, they tend to look a little bit one-dimensional, if you know what I mean. If you go round in a loose sort of wrappy spiral, it has a little bit more to it. Now, one or two people have been asking about hammering, so I'm trying to bring hammering in so that you can see what I do. It's really pretty easy. I've got a steel block, but anything that's firm or hard will do. I have a little hammer, and literally I am just hammering the edges around to flatten it out slightly. Hammering like this does a couple of things. It work hardens the metal so that it's stronger and it's harder. Also, it gives it a different texture. You'll get a slightly hammered or planished. I'm just going to trim that end off and tuck it through. I might have trimmed that a little bit short. That was a bit enthusiastic there on the trimming. It's alright, we'll get it in. Just ease it in there and I'll close it up. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh yes, hammering. It'll give it a textured appearance, a planished appearance, and it will also make it that little bit stronger. Really, it is that simple. You just put it down on a firm surface and hit it with a hammer. If you don't have a special hammer, any hammer will do as long as it's reasonably clean. If you don't have a steel block, I mean mine's not in the best of conditions, it really needs a right good scrub. Anything hard and firm, I mean, don't go around using your kitchen work surfaces or anything, but you know, block of wood would be great. Right, so I've just tucked that in, and I'm seeing I've already hammered the end. I think I'll just hammer the little loop at the back. If you can't reach because you've got raised bits, put it on the edge and you could just hammer it. You notice there is no banging sound, so that's because it's deafening. So what I've actually done is I've taken the sound off that bit, because otherwise I don't think you'd be able to hear me talk. So I'm going to make a loop here, and then I'll be able to fasten my little hook on, so a little bit beyond the wrap that we've already got. Create a loop with our central wire, which has plenty of length left to do something like that. If you wanted, you could use that length to make something a little bit fancy there if you wanted. I'm literally going to just wrap it around. So round nose pliers around the loop. Get that out of the way. Nice flat pliers. Wrap it around just a couple of times, nice and firm. Make sure it's slipping in between those other wraps. I don't want a big chunky bit where it looks like I've wrapped it round several times. It tends to look a little ugly when you do that. So let me just pliers the right way around. Trim that off and make sure that's pressed in and amongst the other wraps. So now we need a loop on the other end so that our hook can fasten into something. So just around the thickest part of the pliers, so it's a decent sized loop, and let's have a look, go around there. Again, I'm going to fasten reasonably loosely. I am going to pull it tight, then it is matching in with the looseness that we did on the hook. Once I've gone round once loosely, as I come round again, I'm using my pliers and I'm going to tighten that little bit there. Can you see how it's slipping a lot? Just keep going, that's it, got it, until it bites. Once it does, you can bring it round and tighten it, but you don't have to tighten the area above it. So just pull that out. So I've got a loop which I'm just going to make sure is still circular, with a loose bit of coiling wire going around it so it ties up with the other end. and then the rest is tightened down. To make it match, because I hammered the others, I'm just going to just tap that and hammer it down. There we go. Round one of my wonderful jam jars. Won't go all the way around, but the idea is that first bend is just to get a very gentle curve, and you'll find with these that you can just bring it in with your fingers until it fastens, and once it does you can just ease the shape to how it ought to be. There we go. Bracelet with flower in the centre. Pop that. Yeah, you see, I can't do that single-handed. Anyway, you get the idea, don't you? Now, if you can't get hold of the sew-on component, or you don't like the sew-on component, we're going to do one. I think it's really pretty. Very, very spring-like. So we're going to do the same thing now, but without the flower. So we're going to do a plain one, like this. So the only thing really that's different is the way we start. Your two lengths that are going to be on the outside are going to be near enough double the length of the inner one. I'm going to create our circular loop at one end, the loop that we would fasten our hook into when we're finished. And I'm just going to tie this, but I'm going to do this quite tight. I aren't going to do it loose like the other one. I need this to be secure all the way back. So this one is getting wrapped around reasonably tight. Because we don't have a central point to work out from, you see, we have to work from one end and work across to the other. So we're going to start at the loop end. You can't do this without a stop, if you like, something beyond it. It'll just all drop to pieces. So say for instance I'm making a 7.5 inch bracelet, I would have probably 8 inches as my centerpiece and probably 14-15 inches of the two outer ones. I've made a tiny loop in the end, and I've just wrong pliers, just hooked it into that bigger loop that we're going to use for fastening, and I'm just tightening that up. This is what I get for trying to use the tiniest loop possible. You want it to take up as little room as you possibly can. In you go. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. Put on a tiny little loop. This isn't a loop that's going to go around and wrap. This is just a loop that's going to hook in and press down. Down you go. There we are. Now we want one wire on that side and one wire on that side. That's it. Sorry, let me just turn the whole thing around. These wires are really quite long, so they're getting in the way. So I'm going to get a bead and go on. I've basically shown you the bit that matters now. The bead goes on and we do exactly the same thing as we before. The bottom wire we wrap upwards over the front of the central wire. Sorry, there are wires everywhere. It's just really long. It would be easier to do if I didn't have the camera in the way. And the one at the back comes down. Now let's see if I can actually twist this without poking my own eyes out, or the cat who has decided to go and sit on my table. Hang on a minute. You know what, I can't. I'm going to have to twist it there. Sorry, I'll have another go and see if I can get it twisted on shot. There's just too much wire. I'm going to do two-tone this time, so we've got a dark sort of claret colour, and then I've got a fuchsia pink, which is rather nice. So up and over the front and down and over the back, and then fingers at the side and poke my own eyes out and twist. There we go. Ta-da! Right, okay. I am going to keep doing that now, just for as long as it needs to be, really. I mean, if you're doing I would say about a 7-inch, and I'm just gonna trog along and keep doing that and show you when I've got to the very end, because I'm just poking my eyes out otherwise. Let me twist that. So this is what it looks like without a central flower. It's really lovely actually. It gives a very firm bracelet. I'm just going to shape it up exactly the same way I did the other. I'm going onto a jam jar, which is a little bit big, and then onto something smaller to do the sides. There we go, get that wrapped around. I made the same hook and eye. The eye was where we started, and I made another hook the same way, and it hooks in like that. So that's what you get if you don't have a bead, and that's what you get if you do. Now, say you like this, but you didn't like the flower. Let's just have a look. Yeah, it goes on just about, and so does the other one. If you wanted to make one but not use the flower, you could have 3 wires, and if you had a big bead, a bead with a large hole in, you'd be able to put the 3 wires through the middle of it and then come out and start. So something like a lampwork bead with a big hole in, or one of these sort of Pandora type beads. You could use one of those in the centre. Anyway, I can't wait to see what you make with these, because you're always so good at putting your own bits and pieces in. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Happy wrapping.